dropped, and it's showtime from downtown Winnipeg.
Morrissey the blast, moves back, scores! Shankly wires and scores!
What a stop by Hellebuyck!
Kyle Connor, Jets go bang, bang, bang!
Welcome to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, we've reached a milestone, podcast number 150 for Ground Control, obviously the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. And you have to bring in a couple of all-star broadcasters for this one, Paul Edmonds, Jamie Thomas of 680 CJOB. We have another all-star to open the podcast talking about, gentlemen, and that's Connor Hellebuyck, voted in by the fans just 3 weeks after Josh Morrissey was named to the All-Star Game. Well-deserved for Hellebuyck. Obviously, it's going to be his third time going there. He's been sensational and near the league lead in a number of categories this season. Jamie, what has stood out about the 2020 Vezina winner, the guy who's been a finalist for that trophy as well, and just another strong season from him so far?
Well, I think now we're getting into a pattern here. So we'll expect Connor Hellebuyck to be going to the All-Star Game in 2024. So we're at 18, 20, 22, 24. So we could just pencil him in every other year of this one. But in all seriousness, clearly the Jets are not where they are without Connor Hellebuyck returning to his Vezina Trophy form. Just seems like he's in another league right now. Just the saves that he's making. He's made the Jets penalty kill where it is today, which was before last night, second in the NHL. It's just a testament to him locking things down. And, you know, we can't say he's not here too without the opportunities, those grade A scoring chances, minimizing this year as compared to last year. So he's been everything the Jets have needed and then some, and a well-deserved honor for him to be going to Florida to join Josh Morrissey.
He seems really excited about it too, which is good. He was kind of getting in on some of the promotional videos to vote and all that kind of stuff too. So that's really cool. So good for him to be able to be joining Josh Morrissey at the All-Star festivities. Over the course of the road trip, Jets are 2-2, but some milestones over this road trip as well. Kyle Connor hits 400 points. Nikolaj Ehlers now most goals by a Danish NHL player at 168. But Blake Wheeler also hits 900 career points. Obviously, last year he got his 1,000th NHL game, Paul, and now he hits 900 points with a 3-point performance against the Senators. Just your thoughts on Blake Wheeler and you know, hitting a milestone that certainly has him in some rarefied air in the NHL for sure.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, he's now at the time that we do this, 901 points. So it's 99 points to go after he came up with a point in the game against the Philadelphia Flyers in a win. And, you know, 1,000 games, 1,000 points, or we've got to think and believe that he's going to get there. I mean, on the pace that he's been at for the last handful of years, that's a great career. It just really is. And I start to wonder about whether he might be worthy of a Hall of Fame acknowledgement. So he's not there yet, but it's something that I think that we should kind of bring into the conversation, because with each passing point in game, he gets a little closer. Will that be solidified if he won a Stanley Cup? Yeah, for sure. I think that you've got to consider that. But Blake, knowing Blake, and we all do because we've covered him for many years, is not about personal milestones. I think that he does certainly enjoy them quietly, privately, and might even more when his career is done. But we had him on the air after the first period in that Philly game, and he was asked the question as to whether he would trade all of those points in for one other thing, and he said, "Is that rhetorical?" And we know what that is. You know, it's at this point of his career. These are the kinds of things when you get to these milestones, guys, that these older players, they think that there's some value in them, but right now it's all about winning for them and winning the top prize in the National Hockey League, and that's the Stanley Cup. When you get to 900 or 950 or 1,000 points, you'll reflect on those in retirement and say, boy, I had a really good career. But this is a bridge to getting to 1,000 points. And that is a milestone that not many guys get to. That is a mark that not many National Hockey League players get to. When he gets there, and we presume again he will, it will be an elite company that Blake Wheeler is talked about with a lot of other names. And if he can kind of put the icing on the cake with the cherry on top and a Stanley Cup victory for the Winnipeg Jets in this year or the remaining year of his contract, which is next year on the term, I think that you've got a pretty special player. He already is, but he doesn't like to talk about it a lot. But 900 is pretty significant in my books and everybody else's across the National Hockey League.
100% agreed. Jamie mentioned the Jets are 2-2 on the season-long 5-game road trip that they're on here. A couple of questions coming out of that. First off, what has stood out on this road trip? And number two, are you going to remember how to drive a vehicle after spending the last week on planes and buses and not having to drive whatsoever? Because it is snowing here in Winnipeg while you two are in Nashville ahead of the finale tomorrow.
Yeah, just look out Winnipeggers when I get back on Wednesday, because if the roads are bad, I'll have no clue what I'm doing. So look
license plate number is
and the blue Volkswagen Jetta, or else the Ford white truck. Look out for that. Listen, I think that what stood out the most is they missed out on a chance to get, kind of started off slow with the Montreal Canadiens games, deserved a better fate outside of 5 minutes against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then kind of really got their game back intact by the time they played the Ottawa Senators. And then I don't think you can really judge much from the game against Philadelphia, because Philadelphia was playing their 5th game in 7 nights. The Jets were playing their 3rd and 4th. It looked like two teams just trying to get things done in the 3rd period. But to me, they've locked things down again defensively. They've played a lot better on their own end and are starting to look more like the team that Rick Bowness wants to see night in, night out, being hard to play against. They were very hard, and they frustrated the heck out of the Ottawa Senators. And then the game against the Flyers, the place they never win in. So they figured out how to win a game where their special teams wasn't there. So it's another road trip where we're looking at it going, they've won different ways. And then they can clearly clean things up in Nashville after a day off here in Nashville today. They're hoping they're a little bit fresh to close it out. So they've won different ways. They've returned the way that Rick Bowness wants them to play, being tough to play against. So again, another road trip where you got a little bit of everything from this hockey team as they try and lock things down and get close to first place before the All-Star break and the player break as well. David
Riddick has seemingly been the cure for all the ails of playing in Pennsylvania for the Winnipeg Jets.
Perfect in Pennsylvania.
There we go. He's won each of his last 3 starts, 4 of his last 5. So big shout out to him, as well as we talked a little bit about goaltending off the start. Jamie, you talked to Colby Armstrong, played 476 games in the NHL, 209 points, been parts of 3 seasons with the Atlanta Thrashers, now an analyst with Sportsnet, among many other duties. What stood out to you about that one, and what can people look forward to in this conversation?
Well, first off, he kept mentioning he's Winnipeg Jet alumni. We had to let him down on that one. So he's not quite in that category. Just, you know what? I know Colby a little bit from my time at Sportsnet, and very humorous, very funny guy. But, he had some great comments about Brian Little, Toby Enstrom. So he had played with some guys that Jets fans are familiar with from their early days of the Jets coming back to Winnipeg. Has a great story at the end about missing a rookie dinner when he was one of the rookie dinners when he was with Toronto. He had an injury. That's not the funny part. It's what happened afterwards. So there's lots to listen to here. He's got some great insight on the Jets as well, because he is an analyst with the Pittsburgh Penguins broadcast. Has some strong thoughts on why the Jets will be successful this year as well.
Shop where the players shop. Jets Gear and TrueNorthShop.com are your authentic team stores. Make sure to stock up on all your favorite Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose merchandise today. Visit one of the 5 Jets Gear locations or shop online at TrueNorthShop.com.
Hi, this is Adam Lowry, and you're listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Colby, we just saw the Winnipeg Jets recently at Pittsburgh when they faced the Penguins. Just a quick thought on the Jets and the big step that they've taken this year as compared to last year.
I got to work between the benches for that game.
Yes, you did. You look good, by the way.
Thank you. I loved it. I loved it down there. It feels like I'm actually playing again, plus 30 to 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Playing it. But hey,
no one's keeping track. No one's keeping
counting.
Track.
Yeah. James,
who looks at these things nowadays?
Yeah. But I honestly, I was so impressed, honestly, covering the Pens this year and obviously watching a lot of hockey, but they're probably the best team I've seen come in there. They're probably the best team I've seen that game. I mean, they're buttoned up. and they played the night before in Buffalo, remember, right? And they weren't too happy with their game and still won the game, got outshot badly. And but from, I think, unheralded decor, like Morrissey gets all the chatter, right? But I thought they all played and look really well. They're all involved. They all seem to have this team confidence in being involved offensively, whether it is Morrissey or others. There's just and then defensively, they're a pretty stiff team to play against. Like when they're on it, they're right on top of you. And then the thing that really jumped out to me is the depth of the lineup as well, and the size. The size, like they can bully people. They can kind of play it any way you want, which is kind of scary, right? When you have the skill too, like their power play is dangerous. Like they have that ability, but their depth and size through the lineup. Like I was like, Stenlin came over 6'5", Lowry. I was like, oh my, I was like the smallest guy on their bed. It was like me and Sam Gagne. I'm like, what's up, dude? Like
we can hang out, Sam.
Yeah.
You mean Ehlers.
Perfetti, Ehlers, and Gagne. Everyone else is a monster on that team, which really is, I think, a big factor to have. I think they're a scary team, and then Hellebuyck didn't even play that game.
Yeah,
and I mean, scary.
You've covered the game a long time, played it a long time. There's all these stories, teams that are supposed to do well and they don't, but immediately the next season the light switches on again. That's just pro hockey, right?
Yeah, and I think everyone says you got to go through hard times before there's good times, kind of thing. And we've seen it through the history, from the Gretzky stories of walking out and, the Islanders aren't celebrating their Stanley Cup. They're icing their injuries. And, that's kind of been the story as long as I was a kid, and hearing that. And, I think we can even look not too far ago as to Tampa Bay, right? They got swept by Columbus after like a historic season in the first round, and it was like a shocker. And then they go to three finals, and like
not
bad run. But I can see the Jets being kind of in that category, right? They've always kind of been at the tip of everyone's tongue as a team that can be one of those teams, or can make it to the conference final for sure. And they've either fell short, or like last year completely fell off the face of the earth. So they've had their tough goes. And I think even like in the dressing room, right? New coach leaves, new coach comes in, the C's gone from Wheeler. Like there's a lot of like craziness that came with that. Like it wasn't easy, but I think, what you see coming out the other side is, the potential, the culture, the attitude, the understanding, and kind of a revived look of what they should be. And it's I do they get enough talk? Do the Jets get enough talk? I feel like they don't. To me either. Like I feel like they don't get any chatter really, and with regards to top teams in the league, especially the West, right? Like they're totally under the radar, when if you really look at it, they are probably, if you watch hockey, probably looking at it, they're probably the best team in the West, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. And I know the organization likes it. They like to be slipping under the radar, but it's and when I worked in Toronto, Colby, this, like the Jets were not on the tip of the tongues, right? They just they were one of the other teams that you talked about. I remember that year, all 7 Canadian teams made the playoffs. They were kind of like that afterthought for a bit. And then I moved there, and you start to realize they've got something going on here. And that 17-18 season was something else. I always like asking you about when you played, and little stops along the way, and Atlanta was one of those places. And of course,
I'm a Jets alumni. I'm a Jets.
I'm also I'm on this call here to tell you that they're hanging your jersey to the rafter, but we'll get Jets fans can't wait to see you again. They're thrilled. Good. So, but the quick stopover in Atlanta, you played with some guys that are Jets alumni: Brian Little, Toby Enstrom, Zach Bogosian, Jim Slater, Andre Pavlik. I know it was such a quick stop, but do you kind of have not so much stories about them, but your time in Atlanta?
Yeah, my time in Atlanta was like unknown when I went there. I just knew that they were not good, and we were in Pittsburgh, trending to be very good. And so it was, the year I got traded, they went to the final and lost to Detroit. The next year won the cup. So it was like, that's the trajectory that we'd kind of built in, and it happened really fast. So to go there, like, to that city, it was different. Like understanding, like, where I am, it's like a totally different city than what I initially, kind of grew up in the game at here in Pittsburgh, small market, smaller city, not much traffic, to be honest with you. It's fairly comfortable. And then I get there and it's like a log jam on an 8-lane highway. And it's like, how is this happening? Like I was in the big city kind of thing, but I found to love it. I got married there. I had 2 kids there, 2 kids born there. I still have friends that I'm in contact with and go on vacations with at times and with their kids and families. It's a special place for me. I wished hockey could have really worked out there a lot better. I think it's like strange. I always say this, like I never met anyone when talking to them, maybe like 1 or 2. Sorry, I shouldn't say never. But most of the people I'm like, they're not from Atlanta. Like no one's from Atlanta that was there. So it made for like a strange sports scene because, just hockey and for example, like we go play, like the Red Wings are in town, like the whole, like everyone was coming to watch Detroit because they were all lived in Atlanta for work. So there's all like it's very transplant work city and people are from other places and have allegiances. So I think it was tough in that sense, sports wise, to kind of attract people to like switch over to the Swirly Bird and come down to Blue Land and cheer on the Thrashers. You know what I mean? So I wish it worked out better, but going back to Winnipeg and when the team finally left and when I was in Montreal, going in there to play in there and stuff too, in Toronto was like so cool. It was loud. It was like the way it's supposed to be. It was like, tight. They're right on top of you. And it was like, man, I wonder what the guys that played in Atlanta now that moved all the way over there are like, holy smokes, this is wild.
Man, you're from Saskatchewan, so you could kind of understand how excited the city of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba was when the Jets moved there. And then you come there with the Canadians. So like speaking of places that are half full of the other team's fans, like there's that whole experience. So as a guy from a prairie province, understanding how important hockey was to this province of Saskatchewan, you must have had kind of like a good feeling when Atlanta moved to Winnipeg.
Yeah, like I think it's important, right? Like I grew up with like the Saskatoon Blades. I'm thinking that's like the NHL and like going to a Oilers or Flames game at the time because the Jets had moved when I was kind of at a different, like a little older. Like that was like crazy. If I didn't go to my first NHL game until I was like 15 years old or 16. And my aunt had tickets because she worked for Nelson Lumber and Lloydminster. Remember when they had like, the 18 Lloydminster people that owned the team? And so she was like the secretary at Nelson Lumber and she got tickets to go. So I got to go see like Wayne Gretzky. One of my first games ever was to go see Wayne Gretzky play his final game in Edmonton, which was crazy. Like they were chanting Walter Gretzky. Like it was like so cool. Like I couldn't believe I was at an NHL game. And I got to go to a game at the Saddle Dome with my grandfather and watch Eric Lindros when he came in with the Flyers. That was, I think, my first game I ever went to was in Calgary, around 14, 15 years old. So it seemed so far away. So, I grew up with like, most of my buddies are like Oilers fans and, a few Flames fans, Canucks fans. And, Winnipeg's 8 hours down the road. It's like another stop that just kind of missed our generation because the team left and moved. So I think it's good that it's that close. I have another option for people in Saskatchewan. We don't have a team, man. We don't have a team. So there's a lot of people scattered all over the place that are fans of certain teams. And it's probably, I'm sure Winnipeg is catching on again and back in people's blood in Saskatoon and in Saskatchewan. It was good.
Yeah, because you saw the turnout in Regina for the Heritage.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The Jets. And, it's great because the options weren't there for Jets fans before. So there was, you always wondered, were there more Flames or Oilers fans in Saskatchewan? That was the conversation for a little while, but it was a great turnout by your home province. Just when you think of the importance of that, and I know it was such a quick time, but Brian Little was such a quiet guy. Was he quiet as a young player? He was 20 and 21 when he played with you in Atlanta. So just wondered if that kind of, when you're a young player, quiet anyways, was he even more quiet at that point?
Yeah, I love Brian Little. And you know what? He came in and he just was like almost like a savvy veteran from the start. Yeah. He was really quiet. He just did his job. He prepared himself. He cared, he's a good teammate. He's just a quiet guy in general, not just like in his preparation. He just did his thing too, but just a really savvy, smart player. And then on top of it, he could quietly like produce like crazy, like he was just a really good player. And like I remember playing with him, and it's a funny story, like Brian Little, like his name, and we had Slava Kozlov, the old grizzled, grumpy, old school Russian player, and he would yell. He thought he was funny, and he had like a dad G, like, "Hey, Brian Small." He'd say it like all the time, and Litz would sit in the corner. They put him in the corner. He had like the best seat. He sat in the corner by himself. No one touched him. He was just cool. He just did his thing. And then Causey had his little dad jokes calling him Brian Small for Brian Little. He thought it was like hilarious, but Litz would like look like, he's just like chilling. But I remember one thing too about Litz too. He used to do I think he used to tuck his socks in behind his skate the first year.
Okay.
And then the next year he came back and he had the socks on top of the skate, like fully around the skate, like
right,
like Malkin, or for example, or guys that do that. And then he had he lit it up that year. I think he had like 30 goals or something. And it's because he did like the Malkin untuck move, I swear to God, with Brian Little. But I think obviously an accident that took his career away. Can you imagine if the Jets had him in the lineup still, and what he would mean to the team, and just how solid he is, and two-way game. He's like, those guys don't grow on trees, so it's sad to see. I still keep in touch with him minimally, but a really, really, really good dude, and great teammate. And we're both Jets alumni,
That's right. Well, you guys stick together that way. Toby Enstrom, also another guy, very quiet.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting you with the quiet guys right now. So
Toby was awesome though. Like Toby is like one of the reasons why at the end of my career I went to play in Sweden. Jonas Gustafsson, the monster, the goaltender in Toronto, Carl Gunnarsson, and then previous to that when I was in Atlanta was Toby Enstrom, and he's just such a good dude. Like those guys are just so I think left such a great impression on me as people and teammates, and just got along with them so well. Toby had a little wild side to him. He liked to kick it up a little bit on the side. Oh yeah, and he come out.
You know what? Do you remember this when you're growing up? Your mom told you always stay away from the quiet guys. So
but Toby's so nice. It's hard to stay away from him, right? But yeah, he's a beauty. He ended up actually staying at my place for a while. I think he was in the middle of moving houses, and so he ended up living with me a little bit. So we had some fun hanging out with him. But yeah, a quiet guy, but just a great person, a great teammate, and kind of nasty with like weird style, like a long stick, little defenseman, shifty. And, he had some good years. He's one of our best defensemen in Atlanta when I was there too. So that's why I went to Sweden pretty much, just because like those three guys were just such good guys. I'm like, if I'm going over there, if I'm done and I'm going over there, I'll go to Sweden, just because they're like such good people that they left such a good impression that like I have to go to that place, if I'm going to play. So it was because of those guys. Toby left an impression on me.
Jim Slater, I've heard legendary stories about how frugal he is. Was he? See, I love how I say frugal, and everybody I talk to. That's one of my favorite parts about talking to alumni is the legendary stories you get. And as soon as you say one word to do with one person, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, he's heart and soul. He couldn't cut the cord from college, that's for sure. I think, is he still back? Is he back there now? I think he's like working where he went to college. It's really funny. Little T-Rex arms on him that were just ripped. He could just work out like a machine. But truly a guy that like really cared and was like a hardworking, all around great teammate that did a lot of the grunt work. Like he could hit, he'd fight, he could kill penalties, he blocked shots, and he did it every day. And regardless if he played 5 minutes or 12 minutes, he was there with energy. So just like obviously a guy that lasted a really long time, right? Like he's a guy that hung around. He was fast. He took care of himself. He was in great shape, like really good shape. So maybe it's because he didn't eat, because he's frugal. So he was shredded,
So even then he would hold, because, I'm sure as much money as guys make in the National Hockey League, you can't take away how they've been brought up. So imagine you've seen some legendary ways of guys not spending their money. Of course, those guys are going to buy new cars, new houses for everybody. There's got to be those guys that keep their money.
Well, And the big thing is in the NHL with guys is like there's like a side deals. They call it side deals. You got a side deal, hey bud? Like it's kind of a way of saying like you're cheap. Why don't you just go buy it on your own? Why are you getting a dealership to give you a car? Or, you have this like relationship and you're kind of a spokesman for the dealership, but they give you the car for the year. It's like, just buy the car, dude. Like, what are you doing? So there's a way like inside the room with the side deals that guys would carve other guys. For
now we're in the room, listeners. We're inside the dressing right now. So
yeah, it's kind of funny how it works out. So if you went and did something like signing somewhere, there's a side thing here, side thing there, you're going to hear about it the next day a little bit.
I always enjoy, one of the other things I enjoy about going on the road with the team is the autograph seekers. So were there any tactics that you guys would have for Sidney Crosby, for instance, to keep him away from the throngs of people?
Well, yeah, he was on like another world. I almost got in a fight one time with an autograph guy in Philadelphia, and then like
shocking
Philly. Wow, surprise. But they're not allowed to like come in the hotel unless you're a guest of the hotel. Well, he was like pretending to dine. Well, he actually bought a burger, but he was like after Sid's autograph, but I recognized him. I knew who he was, and like we kind of said like, dude, like what are you doing? And like security was on him, and he like slammed his burger on the ground, and he was really
like a touchdown.
Yeah, Gronk spiked his burger. Like he had enough. Like the jig was up. We got you, and he was really upset. So then later we went to dinner. I remember, and I don't know where we went, like some steakhouse somewhere, but we were gonna walk there from the hotel. And like I was like hiding behind Eric Cairns, like he's like 6'7", like one of the toughest guys in the league, and just a great guy. Because I was scared this like guy was gonna pop out like try to shank me with a knife or something. Because like he was that upset. It was wild. But I used to love that scene with Sid. It was cool. Like taking like the elevator down, like the service elevator at a hotel down to like this parkade where there's like a cab there so we can get to the game instead of going out the front door, especially in Canada,
Yeah.
When Sid goes to some of those cities in Canada, especially out west, you don't get there too often or get to see him. So that was pretty interesting. I felt like I was like hanging out with like a rock star or something a little bit, because it was like this isn't normal.
you could put on the sunglasses and the dark jacket. You could be Sid's detail.
Yeah, that was like the old story of Doug Gilmour. Didn't he used to take like the subway or like the to games, and he'd wear a Gilmour jersey with like a disguise, and then no one thought it was Doug Gilmour. And
there's no way Doug Gilmour's on the subway right now.
Yeah, wearing his own jersey with like a hat pulled down and a mustache or something.
That is a veteran move in itself.
Yeah.
One last one. I love asking questions about this, but how about rookie dinners? You got a classic rookie dinner story, or the credit card game, anything like that? Where
you're putting me on this one now.
Don't worry, I'll cut it out if it's not any good.
I'm trying to think about any of the rookie dinners that were like a standout. I missed a rookie dinner once because I had a scratched cornea, which I was pissed about. I wasn't allowed to leave my room.
Okay, so that's a good story.
I got sucker punched in Atlanta. I went back to Atlanta with the Leafs, and I got sucker punched kind of by like Ben Eager, but it scratched like I thought I was going to die. Like it was that bad. If anyone's had a scratched cornea,
yeah,
it was horrible. I couldn't sleep at night. Like I thought my head was going to explode. Like my eye was killing. Like if air touched my eye, I was like, just end me now. I just wanted it to be over. And then I got like these numbing drops they put in my eye on the flight, because we were flying from there to LA.
And there's pressure then.
Yeah, I couldn't deal. I was like, and then every like 10 minutes, I'd be like, Stewie, to like the trainer, and he'd come and have these like little drops he'd put in my eye. I'd be like, oh my God. It's like I'm fighting for my life with a scratched cornea. So I went right to an eye doctor there. He looked at my eye, saw it. I had to wear an eye patch like a pirate.
Yeah.
Like, for like 3 days. My eye healed fairly quick. I don't think I missed a game, but I missed rookie party due to that, which I was really pissed about. In LA too.
Did you get razzed a lot with the patch on and the crying every 10 minutes?
There's actually a hilarious thing. I did get razzed. Like I think people generally felt sorry for me because I was like in so much pain. But I was at the practice rink in LA, and I wasn't skating because I had a pirate patch on my eye. It wasn't a pirate patch. It was like a white piece of gauze taped to my face.
Yeah.
So we're in LA. So I remember Mike Komisarek had these big, like awesome, like Hollywood sunglasses, like designer, cool thing. And like, I was like, the media wanted to talk to me because the guy that punched me was Ben Eager. I think he got like 4 or 5 games for it. It was like a hefty suspension. But, I came out at the practice rink in LA and I had the glasses on to cover like the gauze patch on my eye, just to like think it would be like a joke, And I remember Jim Ralph, he asked me, he's like, "So, Army, are the rumors true about you and Madonna?" It was just like such a funny Hollywood question with my sunglasses on. I was dying. I thought that was the first question I got. I was in LA with these stupid glasses with a patch on my eye, thinking I'm cool. And he goes with the whole Hollywood kind of TMZ question. It was hilarious.
Okay, so you have to do me a favor. Do you have a photo of that by chance?
I think there's one maybe on the internet. I'm not sure.
Okay, because I think when we put your podcast, because we put our podcast guest up, do you think would you
yeah.
if I use that photo?
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. The glasses, I have like, I'm fat now, but like my face was so skinny and these glasses were huge. Like they were just ridiculous. Commissaric's a big guy, so like fit his head, but they were like those like Hollywood, sunglass, Paris Hilton or something. I don't know. It's like ridiculous.
That is the best way to end a podcast. Colby, appreciate your time, my friend.
Thanks, James. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, Jets fans, I'm Sarah Orleski. Don't forget to join me after each and every home game for the Winnipeg Jets post-game show live presented by Budweiser, where you'll get exclusive interviews, in-room access, and more. Catch us on all Winnipeg Jets platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and winnipegjets.com.
A big thanks to Colby Armstrong for taking the time to chat and for Jamie just setting that one up. Well done, sir. Mentioned Nikolaj Ehlers a little bit earlier. Never sell yourself short. We mentioned Nikolaj Ehlers a little bit earlier and, the big milestone that he hit. But Paul, just curious to get your thoughts on, the guy missed essentially half a season. He comes in, he's got 17 points in 12 games since coming back from a sports hernia surgery, played on a few different lines since then. He'll say, some parts of his game he's still continuing to work on and get that timing down. But I just think the way he's been able to jump right in and start contributing right away has been quite impressive.
Well, I mean, it was kind of funny based on becoming the all-time leading scorer for Danish-born players. It was funny because the players on his team the other day were kibitzing with him, calling him the Danish Gretzky, right? but he deserves that. I mean, when you look at Danish history in the National Hockey League, gentlemen, there are only 16 players from Denmark that have played in the National Hockey League. 16. It's not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of a northern country. It's close to Finland and Sweden, which has produced, hundreds of National Hockey League players and recognizable names. So I think Nikolaj Ehlers will be one of those names right across the world at some point if he's not there already. But he's been well over a point per game since he came back from missing 36 games. And I just think that the game now and the league is just built for a guy like him with speed and with talent. And boy, when he picks up the puck, AJT, and he comes kind of barreling inside the zone and he curls around the net, there's just no stopping him unless you're going to take a penalty. And then from there, because he's able to kind of curl around and arc around the boards and the net, he has more open ice for him, and he's got a great shot. He's an electrifying player. The Winnipeg Jets certainly missed him. I think the versatility that he shows as well, being able to play right wing or left wing, helps, even though he's a left-handed shot. He's adept at both. I find Europeans are much better at playing both sides than North American hockey players for whatever reason. But he's been great. I mean, he's been exactly what Winnipeg needed. They needed an infusion of some offense to help out. I mean, they kind of limped their way along and did pretty well with all of those injuries that really hampered the team, and still were able to win. But at some point, you're going to run out of that, and you need to get guys back in the lineup. And Nikolaj Ehlers has done that, and the power play has been snapping around, with the exception of the game in Philadelphia. They had scored in 5 straight. I don't think it's any coincidence that Nikolaj Ehlers has come back and helped in a small way kind of be another option on that power play. So there's just so many things that he provides the Winnipeg Jets that taking him out of your lineup for, as we saw, for a couple of months was just hard on the team. And I will say this, there's still the deadline coming up of March 3rd for trade deadlines in the National Hockey League and roster freezes and acquisitions. But getting Nikolaj Ehlers back after he only played the first 2 games and he comes back after 36 games is almost like making a major transaction of getting a star player into your roster that wasn't there before. So it's almost like Kevin Cheveldayoff was able to acquire Nikolaj Ehlers, even though he was there all the way along. So we'll see what happens, but he is a tremendous part of the Winnipeg Jets offense, has been for a few years. And I really think that based on the scoring prowess that he's shown, this might be a career year for him, even though he's missed a number of games.
Yeah, off to just an incredible run since coming back from injury, like you mentioned. Looking ahead to what's on the Jets' schedule, it's been another busy month for the Jets. 4 more to go as we record this before the break. 2 of those are divisional against Nashville and St. Louis. Nashville, obviously, tomorrow. There's also 2 games against the East in the middle of those 2 games, Buffalo and Philadelphia. Jamie, what's the emphasis in those 4 games? Because after those 4, well, there's a break for everyone except for Josh Morrissey and Connor Hellebuyck, I guess.
Right. I think the emphasis is staying with this being hard to play against, but I think the Jets coaching staff is enjoying winning games in different ways. And, something I didn't point out is the way the fourth line or the bottom 6 forward group contributed in a gritty game against the Philadelphia Flyers. Your special teams wasn't there, but you got timely goals from Axel Jonsson, Fjallby, Carson Kuhlman, and certainly Kevin Stanley with the empty net goal against the Flyers last night. So they different teams, different parts of the roster have been contributing through this. You look at the game against Buffalo, you don't want to open things up like the way they did for a period against the Sabres because they'll hurt you. Philadelphia will roll in and it's going to be more of the same game, right? It's going to be physical. So the Jets will have to adapt their style again that game. And then Nashville and St. Louis, we know what to expect. High event games. So we'll see a little bit of everything over these final 4 games, but it will be great for the Jets to be either in first or just hanging around in second spot behind Dallas as they go to the All-Star break, because they've earned this. They've played very well. They fought through a lot of adversity already here before the All-Star break. So for them to be sitting in first or second place in the Central is a great achievement for this hockey club, considering what happened last year.
And of course, we'll be there for all those games, and you can have see all the coverage at 680 CJOB with these 2 fine gentlemen, and also WinnipegJets.com. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us on episode 150, and we will talk to you very soon.
This has been Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. For more Jets news, videos, and more, head to WinnipegJets.com.